we spend 99% of our time on 29% of our planet. So really the problem that we have is attention. We are not delivering enough attention to this issue. And that's why this word was so important. It's a real issue, and we have to put more attention to it in order to get it right. And there are so many things. So in our cycles, in our community, of course, maritime transport is really at the core, but also that I try to get across all time, that the use of oceans and the importance of oceans to mankind is so much bigger than maritime transport. We have technologies, but we also have to recognize that we are not really put these technologies at work, at least not to the full extent that we could. So there are really economic drivers behind, and I think this is what we have to tackle. How can we work on making better use of what we have already in terms of solutions? So we have to look how can we get the investments in the right directions. I think this is, at the end of the day, the key factor to clean up ocean economy. Unregulated markets do not deliver green growth, at least when it comes to our sector, not. So it's really a question, have we enough ambitious objectives? And this refers to not only to technology, so technology requirements. I mean, we have to recognize, and this is something which sometimes is hard to swallow perhaps, but we have to recognize that on several aspects, the maritime industry are far behind what we have onshore. If you look to air pollution, we burn the cheapest and the poorest fuel of all. We burn heavy fuel oil. I've learned that in Germany there are only 4 waste incinerators that have the permission to burn this stuff onshore. We have 100,000 seagoing vessels on the oceans that burn nothing but heavy fuel oil. We have a problem, and we have to do something about it. And we have had a brief discussion here. Of course, there's a lot of focus in the moment on greenhouse gases. You know, when it comes to greenhouse gases, we are actually not doing bad, because shipping is the most energy efficient mode of transport because of physics. You could also say, and this is a shipping CEO that said that to me, basically it's luck. So because you go through water, you have low resistance, and therefore you are quite good at energy efficiency. But when it comes to air pollution, we are doing very badly. And this is something we need to change. For me personally, I think that air pollution deserves priority over greenhouse gas. Now, this is not necessarily a conflict, but it can be.
If you look at the BAU scenario in the upper line, and our Japanese target is, long-term target is 50% reduction by volume in 2060, but this is very difficult to achieve, not achievable by conventional approach. We need in order to achieve the 50% volume reduction means you need the 90% improvement of the efficiency. Efficiency means the CO2 emission per 1 ton of cargo for 1 mile. So it's very difficult, but I think it's still achievable, but cannot be done by the conventional approach. So we need the shift to low carbon fuels, the hydrogen and biofuels, and this shift cannot be done only by the shipbuilding and shipping only. We need the land infrastructure and supply chains. A lot of things have to be done, and collective and cross-sectoral approach is indispensable. I'd like to touch upon the WP6 activities that Dr. Luque has already mentioned. The mission of the WP6 is to establish normal competitive conditions, and we deal basically with abolishing the subsidy, and we also deal with the excess capacity. Dr. Luque used the word overcapacity, but it's the same. Challenge is that shipbuilding is cyclical and vulnerable to excess capacity because of the time lag between the new order and delivery of the ships. And also government supports to shipbuilding yards, which has been done in many countries, and especially in the big shipbuilding countries, not Japan, okay, that government support would prolong excess capacity. So at the first glance, you may not see the link between the sustainable development and excess capacity, but there is a link. There's adverse environmental impacts of the excess capacity. The reason is that the market faces excess capacity and ship price decline. That means there's a decreased market incentive to introduce advanced technologies to the ship. And government supports allow technologically non-competitive shipbuilding yards to remain in the market. That means this is to delay fleet replacement to the new ships with higher energy efficiency. So as a required action, market distorting government support should be removed, and corrective action should be taken, for example, the development of a new instrument.
In this blue economy ambitions of the world, new and emerging sectors will have to really look at very closely, and always with a precautionary principle in our minds. Now, this is just an example of the scale of the topic. You see here a picture of the Clarion-Clipperton zone in the Pacific, which is about 6 million square kilometers. Now, interestingly about deep sea mining is governed by the UNCLOS, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Seas, which designates legally the resources of the deep sea as the common heritage of humankind. This makes the deep sea a very special area. This makes everything that is found in there a concern of us all here.
I'll basically have 3 remarks for you in that discussion. And we heard 2 great contributions to the debate. What I'd like to bring into the debate is 3 elements. First, focus not only on ships and shipping, but also on ports. Secondly, focus not only on the global debate, but also what can be done at the national level. And thirdly, focus not only on targets and measures, but also on incentives and pricing mechanisms.
This idea of kites, crosswind kites, which is now also experimented to harness the energy of currents in water bodies, is very interesting. With wind, it could be on land, but more likely on waters and on ocean waters. It would allow to harness more regular winds, or to harness water bodies with fluxes, with much less material, and therefore much lower investment cost, and eventually lower cost per kilowatt hour. And these concepts are still under development, but may look quite promising. So this may change our assessment of the potential for ocean energies in the coming years.